G'day guys and welcome back to the Freo Faithful channel. The season's done, so it's time to get serious, put some glasses on and talk about trades, list updates, all that stuff, because we've got no games to look forward to. So what is happening at our club now? Well, obviously we've had exit interviews and the players have said what they've wanted to say. So let's get straight into it and make sure you guys join the Freo Faithful army by hitting that subscribe button, getting involved in the comments section, and following us on Instagram at freo.faithful. We all love our trades. It's one of the more exciting parts of the year, particularly for clubs not in finals like us now. So not much in terms of incoming so far, but Will Brodie and Liam Reedy have both requested trades for more opportunities at AFL level. Will Brodie's one that hurts because in 2022, he was a fan favourite. He was one of the best contested ball players in the competition. He got the nickname the Human Shovel. Just great with his inside, in and under work. Hardly ever didn't have his head over a hard ball. He was hardly ever second to a hard ball. He was great at what he did, and we were one of the better clearance sides in the competition. I don't know why it never worked out for him. Maybe it's because Caleb Sarong emerged as one of the better ground ball players in the competition, and Will Brodie couldn't really offer much in terms of his disposal by foot or his running ability. I'm not sure what it was, but to be honest, the fact that he hasn't played senior footy, I think, in 3 years is baffling. So it looks most likely that he's going to go to Port Adelaide at this stage. But if I was a club in Melbourne, I'd be looking at him for any sides that struggle for a clearance, because Will Brodie will do that for you. So yeah, gutted to see Will Brodie go because he was such a good player for us on his day, but he just hasn't been offered the opportunity. So you can't blame the man for seeking a trade because he is an AFL level player, no doubt about it. Liam Reedy is the other one. I think he only played that first game against Geelong in 2025. Played 52 league games for Peel across 3 seasons. Him and Will Brodie were both part of that 2014 Peel Premiership side. And look, when you've got Sean Darcy and Luke Jackson in your ranks, it's going to be hard to crack a game, realistically. Liam Reedy hasn't really done all that much for us. Like, he hasn't been a bad acquisition by any means as a third ruck when you've got 2 rucks in your ranks already. Reportedly very good on the bench press, but also reportedly had a terrible game in Geelong and got absolutely slapped around by Sam De Koning, who isn't even a ruckman. He'll go to Carlton by the looks of it. Enjoy that, Carlton. I really hope you do enjoy Liam Reedy. This one doesn't really feel like a Lloyd Meek-esque losing of a ruckman. You know, when we lost Lloyd Meek, we sort of wanted him to come into the side and show his strengths, but I feel like with Liam Reedy, you sort of know what you're getting. He is a 25-year-old, so quite a mature age. I feel like Lloyd Meek had a lot more growth in him, but Reedy and Brodie were the players at the exit interviews to request a trade. So sayonara, boys. Thanks for playing in the purple, and all the best in the rest of your career. I'm glad that those were the only 2 that requested a trade, because there was a lot of talk earlier in the season that Luke Jackson was seeking a trade back to Victoria. It seemed to be tied to things going on in his personal life with his family. Obviously, his girlfriend lives over here down the Geelong way, I think. So there was a lot sort of talk about that. And Cozzy coming the other way, there was talk about that as well. But Dogger said he's here to stay. Happy days. So good to see Dogger is staying in the purple for 2026 and beyond. Now for players that we can look to get in. One that has sort of been toyed with, I suppose, is Judd McVee from the Melbourne Football Club. He's a country WA boy, so the sort of lure home isn't as strong as it would be for someone that grew up in the metro area of Perth. I'm not sure how much time he spent in the actual metro area, but obviously he was down for the under-18s championships and that type of thing, so he might have boarded. I'm not too sure, but what I do know about Judd McVee is he's a silky ball user with a high IQ who can play a multitude of roles. So he can play on ball as a midfielder. He can play outside mid on the wing. But he's really started his career as a lockdown defender and distributor. So think of maybe like a Jordan Clark or a Heath Chapman type, probably in the middle of those two in terms of ball use, composure in the back half, and good distribution. But he also has the ability to lock down. His game has evolved into the midfield, which is super exciting for him. Whether or not we get him or not, I'm not sure. I think it's more likely that he stays at Melbourne. I think the main factor is going to be who's going to be coaching them. And once he sort of has that yarn with the new coach, understands his new role, then he'll make his decision. But to be honest, if I was Melbourne, I'd be chucking Cozzy, Rivers and Judd McVie in that midfield over Clayton Oliver and Jack Viney any day. So if he gets that promise, he might well stay at the D's. One that I'm just going to make a rumour right now. Well, not a rumour, but a wish list item. A player that hasn't signed a contract and is assessing his options. And I don't think this would happen, but how good would Brody Myercheck be for the Fremantle Dockers, just to give us a bit more punch in that forward line? In the finals, we saw Jai Amos go absolutely missing. We've got no real depth in that key forward sort of arsenal, other than the three that play and Luke Jackson. I'd love to see a medium to tall size, another Paddy Voss in there that just has that dog in him, that's an absolute pro in front of goal and has confidence in his game that he's going to get the job done. So if I was Freo, I would be, at least having a look and asking the question, could Brody Myercheck come over to the West and finish his career in purple? What do you guys think of that? And apparently Lachie Neale is a target for West Coast at the moment. He still has a year remaining on his deal. He's getting paid $800K a year. Now, I would hate to see him play for West Coast just because he's not a Freo legend, but he won multiple best and fairest with us. He was a great player for us. And he's a champion that you can't hate, especially as a Freo fan. So for him to go to West Coast, I would hate that. He would make West Coast better instantly because they don't really have that in and under accumulator. He is getting a bit more injury prone with age. I think he's 33 years old and he's obviously going to play at AFL level every week. So I don't know if it's actually feasible for us to take him. Having said that, I don't think we're really going to bring in anyone of massive magnitude this trade period. And if Lachie Neale's wanting to come back to Perth, would our midfield overall benefit from that? I actually think it would. We've just lost the contracts of Sonny and Fifey. I don't think it'd be the worst thing paying Lachie Neale $800K a year for a couple of seasons. One, to get West Coast off of him because he's a Freo man and we want West Coast to dwell as long as they can. And two, would it free up Sarong to get on the outside more, take a bounce, run with the footy rather than just being that inside in and under bull? Because I do think his outside game has levels to evolve. So it would make our midfield even shorter. We're not a tall, big-bodied midfield. But yeah, I don't think that would be a really bad acquisition. Lachie Neale finish his career in purple. Whether or not it'll happen, I'm not sure. The rumour is that he's pretty keen to get back to WA as, for family reasons and all that malarkey that we don't know the ins and outs of. But would you take Lachie Neale back in the purple this trade period? Let me know down in the comments. A good bit of news to come out after the loss was Neil Erasmus signing for 3 years. He had a lot of interest from Victorian clubs, particularly the Western Bulldogs, as well as West Coast, who are just going to throw their hat in the ring for anyone because their list is absolutely woeful. He was out of contract at the end of this year, and he said there was a bit of interest elsewhere. He's got a lot of stuff here keeping him in Perth. And he didn't want to let that go. He loves the club. The club's going places and growing, and I feel like I can be a part of that. And I do as well, Neil. His back end of the season has been super impressive. I've always been a fan of his when he has the ball in his hands. I think he's always been a great ball user, but he's almost imitating a bit of an Andy Brayshaw type with his intercept game and his tackling toughness as well. Been a massive fan of his. He's been hitting the scoreboard in recent times as well. And just, showing signs of a really well-rounded midfielder. We compare him a lot to Matt Johnson because they were in the same draft class, and that draft class has looked dicey up and down at times. Jai Amos looked great in his first year, not so great in recent times. Matt Johnson came onto the scene and showed great signs, but this year up and down and then got injured. But yeah, Neil Erasmus has been a slow burn. He's been a bit of an unknown entity, but in the back end of this year, as I said, he's shown his ability to play inside, outside, and hit the scoreboard as well. So I'm glad that no one has taken him, because I feel like we are just seeing what we can get with Neil Erasmus, and we've got a good player there. So keen to see how he evolves. Want to see him get more midfield time, and much like Hayden Young and Murphy Reid, get the ball in the hands of this bloke, because he makes things happen when he does have the ball. High IQ, puts the ball in dangerous areas, and if he can continue to sort of grow into his body and become a bit more explosive and a bit more physical with his marking, we're going to have a really good midfielder there. And to finish off, Jack Deline and Odin Jones have been delisted after not playing a single game of AFL. Jack Deline looked like a little pocket rocket a few times at intra clubs. SA product, silky blonde hair, but he's gone. So see you, Jack. Gutted it didn't work out for you. I wanted to see him play. I just liked watching him at a few intra clubs. And Odin Jones had a back injury, didn't really play much footy in the twos. So he's off. And that is where the movement of our list sits for now. So we'll continue to provide you guys with updates as the trade period goes on. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below about everything, the trade period, who we need, who's realistic, what do you think of Neil Erasmus re-signing, and all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys watching the video. If you did enjoy, please leave a like to support the channel, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Until then, take care, Faithful. Have a good one.